everyone. Today is Sunday, July 2nd, and I wanted to say good morning from the global economic north. Today is a really sunny day, and it's also my birthday today, so I just wanted to give nature thanks for empowering me with the strength, the resilience, and the intellectual flexibility to be able to navigate through different forms of oppression that sort of this society has sort of imposed on me. And, I just wanted to do a video about this child named Zoe Kravitz. It's funny because I've actually been following the work of her father since the 90s. When I was first introduced to his music, I was like, wow, this sounds really good. I didn't see what he looked like, but I just felt that the lyrics were really, really speaking to sort of helping me find a way to strengthen myself when I was severely, severely abused by things related to religion, terrorism, economic marginalization. And not that I grew up in a bad household or a bad environment. Like, we've always lived in very nice homes. We've always had, adequate nutrition. But it was some of the things that were going on in the household that really, really would be like sadistic abuse. And so when I was introduced to the music of Mr. Lenny Kravitz, I was like, shit, this sounds really good. And I was like playing this song. What was the song? I think it was something called, I don't know if it was American Woman or Love. Shit, I can't even remember right now. But basically these themes around love and finding the spirit within yourself and sort of grounding yourself in that spirit in a non-religion way. And I followed his work over the years, and then when I saw him, I was like, shit, this is a good-looking black man, right? Because I just love, like, he's got really, like peppercorn hair, and, he's got a really nice, seductive look about him. But on the other hand, I was like, I wonder if he actually appreciates always being sexualized. Maybe he's trying to be an educator through music, and his particular genre, I would probably say it's like, a psychedelic rock type of music. So, so I've been following his works, and what's really shitty is that when you actually do an internet keyword search for his name, all this shit comes up about his kid. So I was just like, you know what, let me look a little bit further into how she's doing, what sorts of things she's interested in. And, I really have to wonder about some of these black kids that, like have like, I don't know about her. And, I'm not going to sound polite and sound like, I'm just sort of like, buying into sort of this supremacy of whiteness system where, we're supposed to be subservient to our, expressions, and we're supposed to sound polite. But that's bullshit, because you know what, we need to talk about the bullshit. And so I was like reading some stuff about this chick, and I'm like, you know what, I think she's really rude, and she comes across as being someone who has internalized aspects of racism. And I don't know where these kids learn that from, but especially these kids within this like mix thing. First of all, if you have an ounce of black in you, you're fucking black. You're not mixed, you're not this, you're not that, you're black. And black is actually a code word to refer to, something related to also melanin genetics and the whole lineage around, like, the benefits of having melanin in your skin. So I remember reading this piece about how she was laughing at people in Africa, especially disadvantaged people in Africa, and sort of this idea around, a lot of people were starving in Africa. And what she did, there was a story, I think she actually shared this, but she said that one day, they were at the dinner table and she was making fun of Africans and, the way that they always sort of image them as being hungry. So she said to her father, why don't we put a potato in an envelope and send it to Africa? So she said that when she said that, her father got really, really mad. And I thought to myself, right on, Mr. Kravitz, because you know what? This kid seems to be like she's a little bit rude. And, you know, when we function in these systems that are like constructed by the supremacy of whiteness, who the fuck are these people to tell us how to actually discipline our kids? Right? They have like these child protection services, they have like all these different like mechanisms where they actually impose on the way we actually bring up our kids, and not necessarily how Lily White Becky brings up her kids. So, you know, that's a completely different video there. I don't know if I'm going to go there with sort of talking about that, because I don't want to waste my time on elevating the thing that's actually very, very, very problematic. So this is Zoe Kravitz, Miss Zoe Kravitz. All this shit comes up about her, and I'm like, fuck, I don't even want to read about her. I want to read about her father. And I remember back in the 90s, I really thought that her, Miss Lisa Bonet and Mr. Lenny Kravitz, I thought they were just a really, really sexy black couple. I never saw them as mixed, and I don't buy into this bullshit around, you know, being subservient to the richness of your melanin. And I really followed Miss Bonet because I liked her. I was really drawn to her as a black woman who always played these characters where she was like independent and she had her own identity. Like on the Cosby Show, for example, you know, she'd be dressed in like these pieces of clothing, and I was like, wow, that's very different. But I never made fun of her. And I looked at images of her over the years, and I'm like, this is a fucking beautiful black woman. She's really, really seductive and looking, and I'm sure that, you know, her and Mr. Kravitz, you know, must have had some really good times together. Or maybe he was like, you know, sort of brought up around a lot of like patriarchal ideals. I mean, I can't imagine on his side being raised with a dark-skinned black mother and a white father. Like, I don't know how epistemologically and spiritually, you know, we black men or we black women can actually get with the thing that also oppressed and our communities and, you know, lynched the nuts of our men. So I think there was a lot of things going on. And so I started like reading a little bit more into Mr. Kravitz's life. I'm like, okay, you know, how was he raised? And, you know, how does he find, like, what does he pull from to inform his work? Because if you look at a lot of his videos, he has all this bullshit, like all these, like, white girls, and he even does, like, these other videos, and I notice that there's a lot of white people around him. And really, I hope that one day he finds that way to also be around nice black people who are actually going to make his talent flounder or flourish or flower. So this thing about Miss Bonet, Miss Lisa Bonet, I think now she's changed her name to Leila Kwai or Leila Kwai Moon, and I really like her, how she's really in touch with sort of the elements of like physics and astronomy and nature, but she's also really seductive looking. And I'm like, you know, I wonder if she really gets turned off by people, you know, always sexualizing her like the way that they've sexualized and really, really degraded Sarah Bartman from back in the day. So on this thing about Zoe Kravitz, I was just reading some articles, and I was like, you know, this little girl seems to be really, really disrespectful. I was watching a video that she was doing, and she was in some kind of like a hotel room, and she took like this bottle of like champagne or something, and she was just spraying it everywhere. And I thought to myself, wow, she's really like, you know, developed a lot of mannerisms like white kids who actually have no manners. So there was a story, I think it was People magazine, like I really don't read that white supremacist shit anyways, but they were talking about how Zoe Kravitz, you know, really respects Nicole Kidman. And I thought to myself, wow, that must really hurt Miss Lisa Bonet, because Miss Lisa Bonet is a black woman, and I don't think she appreciates her offspring saying that, yeah, it's okay to align with the supremacy of whiteness, especially a Becky form. And so there's this thing going on the internet, and I'm saying to myself, personally, I don't like Miss Kidman's acting. I find that she's a woman of privilege. She's one of those little white Beckys that really doesn't have a lot of talent. And, they put her in these roles to sort of esteem that sort of Victorian image of sort of the supremacy of the beauty of the white woman. And when I see films that are actually with her in there, I don't even watch them because I find her acting is really not good, and that she's benefited from privilege, white privilege. So she's married, and I think when you're married, you should show some kind of basic respect to your lover. And she came out and she was talking about, how she was engaged to Lenny Kravitz. And I thought to myself, why in the fucking world wouldn't Mr. Kravitz even be attracted to her? She's not a very good looking woman. And I think that, when I try and make a connection between what he says in his music and sort of what the deliverables are in his life, I think he's just kind of given up and said, okay, you know what, I'm just going to deal with anything. So, on this thing about Miss Kidman, she talks about how she was engaged to Lenny Kravitz, and the way she talks about it is almost like to spit in black women's faces, to say, oh, I got your little nigger man. And on the other hand, I don't know how Mr. Kravitz engages his own consciousness. I don't know if he's really authentic to his works, but based on sort of what I've been following over the years, I do think that he is really authentic to his works. He's just never been taught how to romance a woman from a black man's perspective and from a non-patriarchy, white supremacist informed, supremacy of whiteness perspective. So they have this Zoe kid. And, the thing is that she's saying, Nicole Kidman would have been a great stepmother. I thought to myself, that is pretty fucking disrespectful to your black mother, Miss Lisa Bonet. And, the white media in the United States, I'm sure they're trying to flower sort of the consciousness of this fucking white woman. I call them fucking Beckys. Trying to flower them as being, sort of the most ideal woman. But when you actually explore sort of more of the intellectual traditions around these imagings, around who is sort of that, natural woman in the first woman, it's actually a very dark-skinned black woman. So I don't know what the fuck they're talking about. But that little Zoe Kravitz, she seems like she's a very rude girl, and she seems like she's internalized some things related to racism. And another thing I also sort of question about her is that, what is her talent? Like, where is she going? Does she have any sort of independent likes? Does she actually do anything? And so on that note, if Mrs. Kravitz is watching this, I have to say to you, you know what? If I were to have some rules in my own business related to film stuff, I don't think I'd hire you, because she really comes across as sort of this one that sort of likes to straddle A and B. But on the other hand, she could be one that's trying to find her identity. They said her net worth is, I don't know, something in the millions or whatever, and I'm like, wow, you're so young and you don't even have a clue about anything related to oppressions. You don't even have any clue related to showing some fucking basic respect to your black mother. Miss Lisa Bonet is friggin' awesome. And I was surprised that she actually married a white man. And I really think that her soul is black, really black. And it's really such a shame that her and Mr. Kravitz couldn't work things out. But I really do believe that there is some kind of seductive love between them. On the other hand, I think that, it would be nice if they sort of spoke about what really happened between the two of them, because Mr. Kravitz does come across as sort of being a womanizer. But on the other hand, according to whose media, right? I mean, if it's like a white supremacist media, of course they're going to image a black male as being, very sexually dysfunctional and not having any sort of like sexual morals or sexual discipline. It's always sex, sex, sex. The same thing with us black women, attractive black women. you know, they always seem to sexualize us as sort of always thinking about sex. Like, this is the consciousness of a white supremacy of whiteness thinking. And personally, a lot of us that sort of look like me or whatever, we're not thinking about sex. We're thinking about, like, okay, you know what, how do we move forward with different agendas? How do we actually deal with this thing called, you know, the intersection of multiplicity of oppressions? How do we actually engage? And then, you know what, we do this. It's sad that, we didn't have the opportunity, a lot of us didn't have the opportunity to find a beautiful spirit like Mr. Lenny Kravitz and have children and family and, just sort of like build sort of a beautiful, very spiritually grounded empire. So, on that note, I just wanted to say to this chick, Zoe Kravitz, I don't know what the fuck is up with you, but I find you really, really disrespectful to your mother. And, you should actually learn to love a black woman, especially love the sacrifices that a black woman has to go through to provide you with even any type of spiritual privilege in this world. And when it comes to spiritual stuff, I will make it very clear that I'm referring to things that do not refer to this thing called religion. But to that Zoe Kravitz, you are really disrespectful, and I really hope that one day you get like some kind of awakening where it really shakes you up. Because to say that you esteem a white woman to be your mother, something is really fucking wrong with you. And then another thing is that when you can say shit like that, that also lets us know, people that support the work of your father, that you're not even in tune with anything that he's developed from day one. Or maybe the two of you are just some real serious bullshitters. So on that note, I don't think Mr. Kravitz is a bullshitter, but this little Zoe kid, she's got no fucking manners, and I tell you, she's really, really fucking bold. So on that note, yeah, float away in this sort of media bullshit. But you know what? You are a fucking black woman, and be proud of who you are. Never, ever, ever esteem this thing called a fucking Becky, let me tell you. Because if you look at their history and their ancestry, they have no fucking spirit. On that note, thank you for watching my videos, and have yourself a really nice day today. Thank you. Bye.